Welcome to Dog on the Plot, and it's another red letter day in the gardening year. It is finally pumpkin harvesting time. So I was playing chicken with the frost last week, and now I'm playing chicken with the rain. This is Big Mac's, my biggest pumpkin, and he got inadvertently harvested early because I tried to turn him over because he had a bare patch on the side that was on the soil, and he broke off. So he has been curing on the windowsill for the last couple of weeks, and he is totally orange. And although he's not the most pretty pumpkin, I'm going to have to put him down because he's super heavy. So he's not the prettiest pumpkin, and he doesn't look anything like the Big Mac's pumpkins that Mark's got on the plot that I showed you last week. But he's mine, and I grew him from seed, and he's the biggest pumpkin I've ever grown. So I'm super happy with him, and he's going to be my Halloween pumpkin. So he's got pride of place on the windowsill so everybody can see him as they go by. But I'm not going to carve him because I want to eat him. So I don't want him to start going rotten. I mean, I guess I could just carve him for Halloween night and then eat him the next day. Maybe I'll do that. So the reason I've chose today as my pumpkin harvesting day is because Storm Babet is coming through the East Midlands tonight. The weather says that we've got a nice day, sunny day, until 5 o'clock when the rains come. And it is a yellow warning of rain, so there's going to be a lot. So what I'm trying to do is get my poor pumpkins and squashes to have as much of this sunshine as possible. So I'm going to wait as long as I can today until going down there to harvest them. But they're not the only things that need harvesting today. Because of all this rain, I also want to get in all the beans that have been drying on the vines. So we've got Balotti beans, we've potentially got Cherokee Trail of Tears, but as always my labelling was very haphazard, so I'm not quite sure what is what until I open the pods and see what the beans look like inside. This is me hoping that Cherokee Trail of Tears and Balotti look quite different in terms of a bean. I can't remember. I've also got runner beans drying on the plants for seed for next year, so I want to bring some of those in as well. We are looking at like an extended period of rain, and this is why, although the temperatures have gone up, so last night in the greenhouse it was 9.5, a bit different to the 1.6 at the weekend. So the temperatures are fine, it's just that there's going to be a lot of wet weather and my allotment floods, and I just don't think the pumpkins are going to appreciate that wet weather. Hello, Dory. Hello. Have you brought me your bone? Okay. Oh, this needs to go in the washing machine. Ready? Go! You can perhaps see just from that it's getting quite blowy, although we're not forecast really high winds. It's just kind of moderate winds, so I think what we're getting of this storm is mostly just rain. So, I mean, in terms of the damage the rain can do, even though we've got warmer temperatures, well, my poor little ranunculus. It is so close, and is actually the colour that I ordered. This is the, oh gosh, it's a Picardy one anyway. I'll put the name on the screen. Chrysanths, they're probably going to get a bit damaged by the rain, but the plant itself will be fine. And the Cafe au lait continues to tease. Hopefully the rain won't rot out the buds and we might still get something. But this little rose I might bring in, and maybe the same with this one. I might as well bring those in and enjoy them in the house. I did notice that one of the new echinaceas that I got from the Malvern show has come out, and you can see the pink there. So that's what it will look like when it's fully out. But yeah, it's getting there. I love the centres of echinacea. They're great they're great to dry as well. I've got some in an arrangement in the house from last year. And the chocolate cosmos is having a bit of a last hurrah as well. Look how dark that is. Quite a few buds on there. I also love that the petunias have decided that now is the time to bloom, to have a second flush. So like I was saying last week, although there's this definite change in season, there's still so much going on, and yeah, it's just kind of playing that game, isn't it, about how long something will last and whether you should remove it or bring it in or whatever. But pumpkins and beans are definitely on the agenda for today. And what I did last night was I came into the greenhouse in the evening and I harvested quite a few. In fact, I think possibly all of, it was a bit dark, but possibly all of the aubergines, the peppers that could be eaten. They were still a bit green, but they were fine. In fact, I think maybe some of the peppers, because again, labelling, but some of the peppers might have been chilies because I made a ratatouille and it turned out to be rather spicy. But yeah, there we go. So there's a few aubergines left and they didn't get particularly big. This is a Black Beauty one, but they were delicious, and I'm pleased to have got some of them to maturity. I took the last couple of cucumbers off as well, and although there are some little ones on there, I'm not quite sure what they'll do, but because we've got this wet weather, we've also got higher temperatures, so I'm not quite sure how much sunshine we're going to get, but I am just going to leave stuff in here for the time being and see if we can just get some last little bits out of these plants. One of the things in here though, hello, that is on a time limit is the basil, and I did harvest quite a lot of that last night. I made a big lot of pesto, but I'm keeping my eye on it, and the moment I see a little bit of wilt, I'm going to cut it all down to the ground and take it in and process and get lots in the freezer in little ice cube trays and things like that, so we can have fresh basil, well, freshish, freshly captured basil right through the winter. Right, this dog clearly wants her walk, so yeah, she had that. So I'm going to take her out and okay, get on with some work, and then I'm going to meet you. Sorry. I'm going to meet you down the plot late this afternoon. Yes, yes, yes. Go on, out. She's had to come in air prison. You're in air prison now. Yes. What was I saying? Yes, so late afternoon, I'm going to meet you down the plot, and we're going to harvest some pumpkins. Are you excited, Dory? Are you excited? Pumpkins. Dory absolutely loves pumpkin. It's one of her favourite things. And if you have a dog and they ever get a bit of a dodgy tummy or having a little bit of trouble with the poop, or you think they've eaten something that they shouldn't have eaten and are a bit worried, then pumpkin is the thing to feed them, because it bulks up the feces and helps anything pass through that perhaps shouldn't be in the digestive tract. Hey, this has happened to you before, hasn't it? Do you remember that time you ate a fishing hook? Yeah, because the guys down at the pond, they fish with white bread, and Dory's favourite food in the whole wide world is sliced white bread. And she ate it, and the guy seemed to think there was a fish hook in it. Yeah, do you remember? It was horrible, wasn't it? We were so scared. But she ate a lot of pumpkin, and you were fine. So either she didn't eat it, or it passed through okay. It was quite a long time ago, so I'm pretty sure it's not still in there somewhere. Hey, this is what happens when you eat everything that you find on the park. Go on. Sorry, went off on a bit of a tangent there. What were we saying? Dogs like pumpkins. Pumpkins. So, afternoon, see you at the plot. I'm going to harvest some pumpkins and some beans. Okay, we're here at the plot. We've had a few spots of rain, so my playing chicken with the weather has once again not paid off. But it's only been a few spots, it's not been too bad. I was on a work call and I suddenly heard the pitter-patter of rain on the window and thought, no! I ran into the garden, remembered my washing was out, brought that in, got a chair, got up on the chair and tried to get in as many of the beans as I could. So as I said earlier, there are Balotti beans and Cherokee Trail of Tears potentially, and there's also runner beans in the garden to save the seed. So I brought in as much as I could. It was only a few drops of rain, so they were a little bit damp, but certainly the rain had not penetrated the beans. So what I've done is brought them into the house, laid them on a blanket in the window, and they can just dry off there for a couple of days before I shuck them, and we'll see what we've got of the bean harvest. And though the rain stopped, it still looks fairly threatening, so I've hot-footed it down to the allotment now, and I'm going to get these pumpkins in. As I said earlier, I've also got beans here for saving seed, runner beans. In fact, there's not just runner beans, we've got several different types of beans. We've got these French beans that are the purple TP. Remember we put in the yin and yang dwarf beans? Wonder what happened to those. Should probably have a look at that. But then pumpkins. I've got my two pumpkin beds. So I've got my main bed at the front. That should be pretty straightforward. But then I've got the second bed, which had the sweet corn in the middle, various structures, bean structures and things in the middle. And then it's got Saskatoons, probably cosmos, tree spinach, and the pumpkins are all around the edge. But of course they've crept over, some of them crept up, so tromboncinos are growing up that bean structure where no beans ever grew. So there's a bit of hunting to do for the pumpkins, but luckily a lot of the foliage has died back, so they're pretty visible. And my one worry, I guess, is about the butternut squashes, because they were late to the game and I think they could do with more ripening on the vine. But we may just have to cut our losses with the butternut squash. I'm sure they will still be edible, if, yeah, a little bit underripe. So we better go have a look at the pumpkins. So we've got tromboncino, Hubbard, crown prince, baked potato, Hubbard, butternut squash. We've got a chicky curry, I'm not saying that right, a chuki, red onion squash. We've got the fungo, which is like the Turk's turbany type. What else have we got? And we've got lots of these little honey boat, which I thought, I wondered how did I get as many of these as I have, and it's because I sowed two types of squash, one called honey boat and one called delicata. Turns out that they're the same thing. Don't you hate it when seed packets use different names? It's like, just stick to one name. So yeah, I ended up buying two packets of the same thing and sowing an awful lot of them. So we should have quite a few of those. Then in the main bed, there has been some harvesting already. So Big Macs came out of there. One of the Hokkaido came off as I was tidying the weekend, so that one has been harvested. And then of course we've got all the tromboncinos here. In terms of that light frost, there was, I think, some damage. So take a look at that. I think that is frost damage, and it's interesting that it's on this side because there's a tromboncino here that is showing the same thing, but the rest seem to look okay, and luckily the fungo look okay because those are the ones that I'm most excited about. Anyway, stop chatting, let's get them all in. So I'll just show you on this this Turk's turban one how I'm removing them from the vine. The first thing I'm doing is I'm picking them up by the pumpkin itself rather than the stalk, because this is quite delicate, and if you break this, that's when you can allow rot in. And I'm trying to keep a little bit of the vine. It's called a T-bar. Oh, so you're creating a little T with the stalk, and that's just making sure that you're not snipping into the actual stem and potentially allowing that rot in. But what a magnificent squash. I absolutely love these. These are, I think, my favourite squash to grow this year, but of course we don't know how they taste yet. I have to do my pride and joy with you. So let's get the biggest tromboncino off. There we go. I've just done a final sweep and found another honey boat and another Hokkaido and an ear of corn that I missed last week. So yay, corn. Right, I'll show you what we've got. Liz, at Liz Grows Happy, there's a boot of dreams. Wow, I think that's more than I thought there would be. There were certainly some hidden ones. Hello, where have you been? Off on an adventure? Oh dear, she can see one of our neighbours down there. No, no, Dory. Go on, back on the plot. Back on the plot. Good girl. Good girl. Go on. Go on. Go on. On the plot. Go on. Go on. Go on. Good girl. There. Sit there. That's it. Good girl. So we'll do the final tally when we get home, because I have got some already curing at home, so we need to add them all together. And then I really want to compare to how I did last year, when I definitely had less plants and they were growing in the front garden in what was a pumpkin patch last year. So it'll be interesting to see how they compare. I'm just looking at Mark's pumpkins. I showed you last week his Big Macs, still there, still looking okay, I think, because he hasn't raised them off the ground. Mark isn't here to harvest his pumpkins before the rains, because it's half term in Leicester and he's been on holiday. Now I did say to him if he wanted me to, I would harvest them for him before the frost and now before the rains. But quite understandably, he felt he wanted to harvest them himself, which is what I would feel as well. You know, there's something really nice about harvesting what you've grown. So yeah, it's just a shame though that some of them are suffering for the weight. Like that one. Oh dear. Oh dear. Dory, where are you going? Come on. You're being a bit of a pain. Come on. Off you go. Good girl. Good girl. Can you see her? Naughty monkey. Yeah, can totally understand why he wants to do the harvest himself. And actually today I felt a little bit robbed. Like I wanted the sun to be shining for a start, and it's looking very dark now. And I didn't want to rush it, you know, and I always feel like I get to these red letter days, like I said at the beginning of the video, where it's like, oh, I'm going to harvest the pumpkins, or, you know, do the tomatoes or whatever. And because I'm always sort of trying to get the best time, and then I run out of time and I end up having to rush it, and it's not as enjoyable then as it should be. So yeah, I think I would have liked to have made more of an occasion of bringing in the pumpkins, but maybe that's silly. We got pumpkins. The occasion can be cooking with them. Hey. Right, well, no word from Mum, so I don't know what she's playing about at. Looking over at her house, can't see any movement. So she'll be bringing Lottie down, because as I say, half term, so the whole family's away basically, and Mum and I are holding down the fort with the animals. Unfortunately, I may have lost one of my cousin's fish. I'm meant to be babysitting the fish, but one has not made it. That's why in the last couple of videos Mum and I have been walking Dory and Lottie together a lot. But yeah, they're all coming back tomorrow anyway. So less play dates with your cousin Dory. But she should be bringing Lottie down here in a moment, and this will be Lottie's first time on the plot. New dog on the plot. So while I wait for those, I'm going to take a look at these beans and see what might be salvaged as seed for next year. Right, Mum's arrived, so we've got runner beans, all the ones that are dried. We've left off on anything that's just not good eating and not dried, so we'll see what happens with those ones. These are the ones that we think are still good eating. Look at the beans, look at the size of the bean. Brilliant. And then this, oh, I already showed you, but I mean, I'm so pleased to at least get a few of the yin yang beans, but my worry is these were obviously not very strong, healthy plants. So is it a good idea to use those beans? Not sure. And still loads of these black beans, and they're not dry at all. So I think they're still for eating. And talking of things still for eating, last week was not the final strawberry of the season. Oh, my hair. Still eating strawberries. Love it. Right, Mum's having a look at Mark's beans. Lottie, you're sitting in the moat. That's no good. You can have a wet bum. You can have a wet bum. Yes, you are. Lottie. Lottie. Oh, you are gorgeous. Your Mum just spotted the pumpkin that I'd missed randomly right at the path in plain sight where I was just talking to Lottie. Right, let's get that one up. I'm pleased to say that that little frost did no damage to the lettuce. So these are the Bronze Beauty that I did finally look up and find out what they were. I think the seed was from Mr. Fothergill's, but it was a different range. It was the Rob Smith, who does Rob's Allotment on Instagram. You may follow him. So this was one of his seed collections. Yeah. And I think I was originally looking for bronze arrow because I'd heard good things about that, but the closest I could find was this Bronze Beauty. But anyway, highly recommended. It's excellent lettuce and cold resistant, it seems. well, we'll come back to that when we've had a bit more cold weather and see. I was just wondering where Lottie was. Oh my goodness. Have you ever seen anything so cute? Oh, Lottie, I have to take a picture for your mom. I'm just trying to jolly the dogs along. So we're going to take them for a walk now, but yeah, that's it. Plot done. Plot ready for the storm Babet. We've got in beans and we've got in pumpkins. And I ate a strawberry. I found a sweet corn. Mum brought me a mince pie. We had a little bit of Christmas last week at the garden centre. A little bit of Christmas here. Well, too early, Dory. Too early. Lovely though. Right. Better go. When we get back, tally up these pumpkins. Oh, hit the back of my throat. Okay, we're the next day actually, because by the time I'd we went around and took everyone's bins out. This was bin day, so all those on holiday had their bins put out, and we walked the dogs, and by the time we got home the rain was coming down, so the pumpkins actually spent the night in the boot of the car. But that wasn't so bad because it was all open, so it was light, it was warm, it was fine. And I've just took them out now. It's lunchtime, and we've got a break in the rain, so the sun has, well, it's gone in now, but it was out for a little bit while I was unpacking all the pumpkins, and it is time now to tally up the 2023 pumpkin harvest. So before we get to 2023, we should have a recap of 2022. Last year's pumpkins, as I've mentioned before, grew on the front garden, so it was a pumpkin patch. It had my raspberries and gooseberries and things in as well, and the apple tree went in the autumn, so as the pumpkins came out the apple tree went in. But I can't remember now how many I think there were 12 or 13 plants on the front, and I'm pretty sure, did I do 24 this year? I think I doubled the amount of plants that I had this year, but not all of them made it, as we'll see. But it's a bit hard to say exactly how many plants I had of each variety because labelling. Anyway, so 2022's harvest were 4 Hubbards, the Anna Schwartz Hubbards from Real Seeds. I had 7 spaghetti squash last year, 6 Uchikikiori, 7 Waltham butternut squashes, again a Real Seeds one, and then I had some random blue pumpkin, which I think was perhaps a Ute Indian, because that was it was a random seed within the Real Seeds packets. and that's the one that most looked like the one that they had on their website, so potentially that. So that was, so how many was that in total? 14, 18, 24, 25 pumpkins last year. Just going to double check that math. Yep, 25. Right, this year. So we've got the one Big Max. I definitely sowed more than one seed. So, but only one plant produced a Big Max, and it only had one pumpkin on the vine, which I think is probably for the best anyway, because that's how you're going to get the biggest pumpkin. I got 17 honeyboat. So I mentioned that I had honeyboat and delicata, and they were actually the same thing. So there were many more plants of that than I had intended to grow. So they kind of doubled. I got 6 Uchukikuri. So what's that on last year? Oh, same as last year then. I got 7 baked potato, and that's my first year growing that variety. And I've eaten one of the. Have I eaten one of those already? No, I've gifted one of those already. I got 3 fungo, which I have to say are just my absolute favourites of the pumpkins this year. I love the way they look. I hope they're going to taste good. There's 2 crown prince. Now, these are dodgy looking crown prince. They are not the beautiful shape of a crown prince. And I can only think that these were seed that came from a seed saving library. So perhaps they had crossed with a different kind of pumpkin. But it'll be interesting to see what they taste like. I got 7 butternut, which is the same as I got last year, but last year's were definitely bigger and riper at this point. These are going to have to ripen on the windowsill. And I got 4 of the Hubbard, which again is the same as last year. And what I didn't get was any of the Candy Roaster. Again, that was from a seed saving library, so potentially it wasn't viable seed. But I also didn't get any of the spaghetti squash, which is really strange because that was quite prolific last year. I had 7 of those last year, none this year. But I do remember that I sowed those late. But I don't know. They should have caught up, I would have thought. And now I have to do some more maths. So 1 second. Oh wait, I forgot to mention the tromboncinos, didn't I? There were 10 of those. 10 that I've taken to maturity. Obviously I've eaten many more immature ones as a summer squash. Anyway, I've done my maths. I think I'm up to 57. I think I've got 57, including because I've eaten one of the Uchukikuri and I've eaten gifted one of the baked potato. And I've eaten a couple of honeyboat. Hello. But yeah, I think about 57 is the total. So I have more than doubled what I grew last year. So being that I had twice as many plants, that's good. That's how it should be. I am a bit disappointed that some of them aren't bigger. But you know what, actually, when the practicality of cooking with them, you don't want them that big. And, you know, it's just me, or it's me and Liam, or me and Mom. And yeah, we don't want squash for days, really. What I really do want to do, though, is cure them properly so that they can last until hopefully this time next year, because my 25 from the previous year did last me up to, when did I eat my last one? I had 2 or 3 that went rotten. So do check your squashes over the winter. I guess I was eating them into May. So let's see if I can get squash to save all the way around. I have to see which ones are the best savers. So put those ones aside and eat the ones that do not store as long first. Also those ones with frost damage. Let's go look at that. So this is, I think, the 3 that got the frost damage. So you can just see it's gone a little translucent in these patches. And what I'm going to do is try and cure them. So I'm going to put them on the windowsill with the rest. She says, thinking, I have not got enough windowsill space for all of these. All right, we'll cross that bridge in a moment. I'm just going to keep an eye on them, and if it does seem like they're starting to go soft, they'll be the first ones that I eat. I think otherwise everything is intact. So did my T-bar crossing with on the vine with all of them except the Big Macs that fell off. So they should all store well because the stems are intact. So I'll just sort of keep an eye in case there's any damage to skins that might let in rot, but otherwise it should be a good lot for storing. What I will say about that frost thing, I mean, that frost was so incredibly light. I think Bev commented that she's in the same region and didn't notice a frost, and honestly I wouldn't have either if I hadn't come out very early and scraped that piece of glass at the back of the garden and had all the old boys at the allotment telling me it's a frost. So it was incredibly light, and yet it did damage these pumpkins. And I was reading online that you didn't have to worry about a light frost, that your pumpkins would be fine. Well, clearly that was not the case. So it was something I'm going to remember for next year, that even if the lightest of frost is forecast, to get them in, because I would rather have them in smaller and will store than potentially larger but will rot quicker and need to be used up. There's my 2 penny worth. I suppose one other thing to kind of say is that I won't be saving seed from any of these pumpkins because I did grow them all together. If I had had some forethought, which I'm not known for, I may have taken one variety and planted that in the home garden so that that wouldn't cross with anything else, and then I could have saved seed from that one. And I may do that next year actually, because I would like to give back to the seed saving libraries that I often get seed from, so other than hollyhock seed, which I keep sending them and I'm sure they're sick of. So we did have a lot of rain last night and we've got a lot more due, but the winds were not high and everything in the garden seems fine. I did bring my roses in, so I'm enjoying those in the house. Ranunculus looks fine, even the chrysanths were fine, and bloody cafe au lait is just peaking now. It is so close. Look at it, look at it, just teasing. Come on, you can do it. But yeah, wet chrysanths, but okay. And the ranunculus, it's pretty much out now. Look at that. I mean, they're gorgeous, aren't they? They are absolutely beautiful, but rather a pain. But look, I've got 2 more buds on there as well. Okay, I'm going to tick off on my list now that I've harvested the pumpkins. I didn't even have it on the list. Right, I'm writing it on. Harvest pumpkins. Tick. Harvest beans. Tick. So what haven't I done? Oh, I paid up and I did my King seed order last week, so they're off. Strim, weed, plant brassicas. Well, now the pumpkins are out, that's where the brassicas are going to go, I think. Still not put my wineberry in. And yeah, just, you know, decide what I'm doing with the beds. Am I covering them with cardboard? Am I putting down a green manure? Am I just sticking brassicas everywhere? Yeah, so still a lot to do at the plot. But yeah, we'll see what the weekend brings. I'll see you then. Bye. It's Saturday afternoon, got to the plot. Well, it's been very wet and it's now very wet here. I'm really glad I put my wellies on. So Mark's here too. All the family are back off holiday. All the various pets have been redistributed to their homes. So it's nice to have everybody back. Had a bit of a slow morning this morning, so popped Gardener's World on and decided to pod all of those dried beans that I collected earlier in the week. So got quite a nice bowl full of runner beans and of Balotti beans. Cherokee Trail of Tears.
who knows? Who knows where they went? But plenty of Bolotti. Unless Cherokee Trail of Tears look exactly the same as Bolotti, then perhaps there is a mix. I don't know. And then just those few yin yang beans. But yeah, that was nice though this morning when I was talking about sort of these gardening moments and occasions that you get in the gardening year, and yeah, podding the dried beans felt like one of those, and that was a nice way to do it. It was very cozy and pleased with the result. In terms of harvesting then, I'm thinking about potatoes. So some of you advised me that it might be better to get these potatoes up, especially with my very wet plot. I've just had a little feel around, and there's some main crop potatoes in there with a lot of slugs in them, or a lot of slug damage. And yeah, I can only see that getting worse. So I think I'm going to have a little go and just see what's there, see how far we get. Yeah, as I say, Mark's down here. He's going to harvest his pumpkins a little bit later when my nephew's down here, because he's excited about that. We've just been down the plot, or down the site, and picked up some strawberries from the same person who donated strawberries to my plot. So we just went down there and grabbed a load of those. So very grateful to her for sharing that, and brought them down. But mostly we've been standing around just surveying the flooding. So I should probably show you some of that, and then we'll do the potatoes. So this is the little trenchy bit, which is nice and full of water. This is on Mark's plot. And then the centre bed, which, yeah. I mean, we would really appreciate people's suggestions on what to do about this. Or do you just live with it? It doesn't tend to happen during the summer when your crops are on there. This side of Mark's plot's okay, and then if we go around to mine, water collects down here in the moats, and then pretty bad along all of this side bit here. This is where it all collects. But yeah, glad I put my wellies on. Slightly more positive in terms of the water. Do you remember my nephew dug a pond? Well, he dug a hole. Well, it's filled in now, and I guess it's, you know, creating quite a nice habitat down here. There's a bit of a trench already dug down here, and it is my thinking that perhaps the way to deal with this is to just go full in on that trench all the way down the length of this plot. You can see that my plot neighbour Jim has put in some piping, so he's tried to do something about it here, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be quite working. This mounds up here, and then my bed's there, which isn't a floody bed. In fact, the whole front of my plot tends to be okay. It's more this middle part, and the back doesn't seem to be too bad. But yeah, definitely this middle part is a problem area. You can see I didn't clear away any of the squash stuff there. There we go. And then not quite so bad on this bit. But I imagine this is why I have these sides and then the beds mound up, because that was how the previous tenant managed this flooding, was to collect it in the moats around the beds. But I'm not sure that's an ideal solution. I don't know. I have to keep climbing through these cosmos. They're completely covering the path. Okay, so this is where the main crop potatoes are, all two lines of it with the kale and I think this could be cauliflower are in between. You can see that it is very wet in this spot, so let's get the fork and yeah, see what might be under there. Well, this is not the best harvest in the world, but I've done one row. So this is Cara, a lot of slug damage. Vala, not so much, but less potatoes. And then the pink fir, which look okay, if on the small side. But that's one row. I've still got another row to go. But it's a little bit difficult to get to. It's all down there. And it also got Desiree potatoes over there. And Mark has just harvested some of his Desiree. And that's pretty impressive. Look at the size of that one. Wow. Very good. And some pink fir as well in there. Doesn't that look appetizing? Right, I'm going to take those home, give them a good wash and lay them out to dry for the rest of the weekend. Well, the sun has just started shining for this week's sign-off, which is lovely. I promised you an autumnal episode this week, and I hope I've delivered. We had the harvesting of the pumpkins, we brought in the dried beans and shook them, we potted, shooked, shelled. I think I've used all those terms in this episode. We brought in main crop potatoes and did some sweet chestnut foraging. So I feel, there's quite a bounty that has come in this week, and certainly it feels very autumnal. And you know how I can tell? Because the Acer is finally starting to turn. Let me just show you. There she is. And this will go so quickly. We'll see. Next week it should be an absolute blaze of orange, and probably the week after that there'll be nothing left on it. He's still playing with that bone, Dory. Thinking of next week. Surely we're going to see the cafe au lait next week. So close, so close. Definitely at this time of year as well, you start getting excited about what you want to do next year, particularly with these pumpkins. So I just wanted to show you one of the ones that I've ordered from King's Seed. Check that out. Goosebumps. How cool does that look? I also had another surprise delivery to work, and the lovely Ali and Trish have sent me 2 lots of seeds. One, so pumpkin seeds, rare organic heirloom Andean big pumpkin,
and there's 2 seeds. Look at the size of them. So they should make absolutely huge, giant pumpkins. But on the other side, some sugar pie pumpkin seeds, which should make little, really sweet pumpkins, ideal for desserts. Apparently these were from the States. So thank you so much. And they also put in the tomato pork chop, okay, which if you watch Jessie at Plot 37, you'll know that was one of her top tomatoes. So you know, again, completely brightened my day on a very busy day at work. So thank you to Ali and Trish at the Right Pair Plot. Exciting. And just the last thing I wanted to say before closing for this week was, since I filmed on the plot and we were looking at the flooding, it has become clear that pales in comparison to some of the effects of the storm that people have suffered over the last few days. And yeah, my heart goes out to you if you're dealing with that. And certainly I saw things on Instagram as well of other people's plots that were completely underwater, like greenhouses swimming along. So yeah, in comparison, our little patches of flooding on the plot are not such a big deal. And Mark seems to think he can get a handle on it anyway. He's very determined that next year it's definitely going to be the year of the plot for him. And hopefully I will benefit from that because he'll sort out the flooding problem. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode and seeing the pumpkin harvest. Yeah, I know I was a bit complainy that I had to do it in a rush and the sun wasn't shining and blah blah blah, but no, it was brilliant and I'm really pleased with the pumpkins. Potatoes, which are just still drying out behind me, yeah, not so keen on. We might have to rethink potatoes for next year. Quite a lot of you recommended that I do it in buckets, but I did want to give it a go in the ground, and it's supposed to be that potatoes help with clay soil, but yeah. So thank you for watching, have a good week, and I will catch you next week, which is I guess it's our Halloween episode. So I'll see you for that. Take care.